Howdy swim fans, here with another episode of Whiteboard Wednesday. And on today's episode, we're talking about fasting. It's something that hundreds of millions of people around the world do at some point during the year. And on today's episode, we're gonna talk about what fasting is exactly and how you can get the most out of your swimming performance during a fast. Now, swimming is something that people do for religious or health benefits where you abstain from eating or drinking for some period of time during the day. Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam all recognize fasting in some form during the year. But there is something that is common amongst everyone, and that is that everyone fasts every single day when you go to sleep. The difference is the actual duration of which you're doing this during one of these segments. So there's three different main types of fasting. One of them is called regular fasting, and this is where you abstain from eating or drinking, but you'll still drink water for some period of time. There's also partial fasting, and this is where you're going to abstain from a majority of foods and you might only eat a select few things. And then you have absolute fasting, and for absolute fasting, you are essentially not eating or drinking, and that includes water for some period of time during the day, typically between 16 and 18 hours. Now, fasting is something that's often talked about in health and fitness, and typically people are referring to this concept of intermittent fasting. And this is where most people are not going to eat between 7 p.m. and 11 a.m. of the following day. But most of the time, people will still drink water. During the month of Ramadan, you're not eating or drinking, including water, during the hours that the sun is up. So from about 4 a.m. until 9 p.m., depending on where you are in the world and what time of the year it is. So from dawn until sunset, no eating or drinking. So you might think to yourself, how can you swim when you're not eating or drinking anything? You're gonna be really dehydrated. And this is true. So it's really important to pay attention to your body and to really listen to how hydrated you are. And it's also really important to plan ahead. So the best time to swim during the month of Ramadan, or even to do any high intensity exercise or working out, is actually in the middle of the night. And so that's like 2 a.m. to about 11 p.m. So 11 to 2 p.m. at night. And you might be thinking, how can I swim at that time if the pool's not even open? Well, there are a few gyms that are open, but even if that's not the case, if you don't have a flexible schedule, you have like a more normal schedule, there's a few best practices that you can follow. So for our first example, we're gonna look at someone with a really flexible schedule that has the ability to swim at 11 p.m. at night or 12 a.m., super early in the morning when most gyms are closed. So if you are lucky enough to have this opportunity, this is an example of what your schedule could look like to maximize results in the water. Now, 4 a.m. is when you're gonna wake up, you're gonna have your suhoor, and you're gonna have a lot of water, you're gonna hydrate. This is your first meal of the day, and then you'll go throughout the day as normal as it is, whether you're working, if you can take naps at that point, fantastic, but you'll go until 9 p.m., until iftar, when you break your fast for the first time. And when you break your fast, the goal is actually not to overindulge in your food, but to do just enough to get your body rehydrated and to have enough food so that way you can approach a workout a few hours later. And in this example, you're gonna be doing your high intensity swim at 12 a.m. So at midnight, you go to the gym, you go to the pool, and you get your high intensity workout in. And this way you'll have already rehydrated yourself and you've had 1 or 2 meals before you go into the pool. Now, your big meal that you can have after your swim allows you to replenish all the nutrients lost during that high intensity activity, and that'll be at about 1 to 2 a.m. depending on your schedule. And then rinse and repeat and do this as frequently as you would like. And just remember, it's important to listen to your body so that way you're in the best position possible to be healthy and also not overexhaust yourself. Now, if you don't have the most flexible schedule in the world and you can't take naps during the day and swim at midnight, that's totally okay. The next best time to swim during the month of Ramadan, or if you're doing a fast like this, is actually right before you break your fast at iftar. So if you wake up again at 4 a.m., you fast all day long, right before you break your fast at 9 p.m. at sunset, you're gonna have an opportunity to do a workout where you're gonna be able to eat immediately afterwards. So if you're able to swim at about 7 or 8 p.m., about an hour or two before sunset, that's the second best time to get in your swim. And now the worst time to get in a high intensity workout is in the middle of the day because your body is already in a dehydrated and exhaustive state. and you're not going to be able to refuel after you do the workout. So it's really, really important. If you can, manage to swim or train in the middle of the night, and that's when you can do a high intensity workout. And if not, you do it right before you break your fast. It's really important to differentiate between a high intensity workout, something that it might be like working out, lifting weights, or if it's in the pool, you're doing a lot of sprints, a lot of stroke work, IM, butterfly, kicking, underwaters, any of those things are really best to do in the middle of the night after you've already eaten, and you can eat again immediately after. A swim that's at an hour or two before sunset, before you break your fast, is really best to be a lower intensity, more aerobically focused swim. You don't want to do high intensity aerobic swimming because you're basically just going to over dehydrate yourself, and you can actually lose muscle and over fatigue yourself if you do that. So we have an example swim workout called the fasting swim workout, and this is an example of a low intensity yet aerobic swim that you could do at either of these two periods, but ideally you'll do an hour or two before sunset. Now, the warm-up, you're going to start with an easy 4-100s freestyle, really stretch it out, aerobic swimming, followed by 450s, either stroke or IM, and this should be the highest intensity stroke component of this workout. Now, the main set is you're going to be a 200 freestyle, really long, stretched out in the endurance energy zone, followed by 650s at threshold. Now, these 650s should be the most intense part of the swim, and they're still aerobic in nature. You're going to do this main set 2 rounds, and you're going to follow that up by a cool down, which is 450s, freestyle, or stroke. Now, this workout is 1,800 meters, and it'll take you about 40 minutes, and it's the ideal distance and intensity to do right before you break your fast at iftar. Now, there are some best practices when it comes to fasting. Here are some fasting tips. Number 1, hydrate. Hydration is actually the most important component because what happens is when you don't eat or drink all day long, you become really dehydrated and you're not able to adequately fuel your body to do a workout in the first place. So really making sure that you're hydrated. So at suhoor, you're gonna have maybe 2, 3, or 4 cups of water. And then when you break your fast, the first thing you should do is have 1 or 2 cups of water. And then periodically throughout the night, having more water to keep yourself hydrated. So making sure you're hydrated is super important. Also, we've already talked about this, but having low intensity cardio is super important when you're doing a swim right before you break your fast, or when you're doing an aerobic activity while you're a little bit dehydrated. A high intensity activity should only come after you've broken your fast. So in the middle of the night in the flexible schedule example. And finally, it's important to break your fast on high protein foods. It's really important that when you break your fast, whether it's right after a swim or you plan on doing another workout later on in the day, it's super important that you don't binge eat and eat lots of foods with high sugar, because the sugar will actually dehydrate you further and it will not allow you to perform in the water. And so overall, when you're looking at fasting, whether it's for the month of Ramadan or any other period of time, it's important to think about maintaining your level of physical fitness rather than trying to overperform. A big mistake people make is they either do nothing during the month of Ramadan or they overdo it and they get overly fatigued and they might binge eat and actually gain weight during this month. So really focus on maintaining your level of fitness. And if you have any other tips on how you can be successful in working out, whether that's swimming or doing anything else during the month of Ramadan or any other fasting best practices, would love to hear them in the comments below. Ramadan Mubarak, kulam wa antum bikhair. Happy swimming, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.